Hello stranger, are you ready to learn about the evolution of money income in Black Desert? Which is just a more fancy way to say this is a money per hour video. If so, then I guess take a seat, get some popcorn, whatever. This video is going to be quite full of numbers and you can already see the timestamp anyway, so let's begin the discussion and see pretty much what I got out of my Crescent Shrine money per hour test and compare it pretty much with my previous tests and see how this place stacks up these days and if it's actually profitable to grind in this area. Now, for those who are new to my money per hour tests and don't know how they work, pretty much the main idea is to start from Duodecil, grind for however many hours I feel like, and then at the end of the test return back to Duodecil, include all of the downtime from my grinding session, and then make money per hour value to see how much I got out of all of that time spent. Now, before we move further into the video, I should mention the test details, which I will have on the screen in case you want to check them out. I should mention these are not actually valid for my 1.5 years old video, obviously. We are going to talk about that in just a second, but for the rest of the tests I pretty much had a trike Xarka. Only for the last one, the last 2 hours, I had the Tet Xarka. I have 5 pets, 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2 and 3 tier 3 pets. My node level is 0, the drop rate knowledge I believe is 5%, and also for some of the tests I will mention later I had Massive Blessing active, for others I did not. Besides that, everything else is pretty much irrelevant, so now we can move on and talk about the numbers part of the video. By the way, to avoid confusion as to why the thumbnail says 18 hours and I'm talking about less, the video is split in 4 different sections, the first one being the 1.5 years old test, and then the other 3 are 3 different tests that I did on the past 3 weeks, which add up in total to 18 hours. What I am mainly going to be taking a look at is how many scrolls I can get per hour, how many trash items I can get per hour, and besides that we have of course the Iona fragments, the rings and the overall money per hour value. So starting off the first part of the video, let's get the old 1.5 years test out of the way quickly, because of course it's an old test, it's outdated. We are only mentioning it so we can get a comparison of how prices evolved, I suppose. Back then I only had 3 pets, I believe. I don't think I had 4 yet, but I had probably 3. The scrolls were much cheaper, they were 1.2 millions, gems were 1 million, so not maxed out yet. The ring was still 40 millions, so that's nice. And of course my grinding speed was much slower. The conclusion from that video was that I got about 7 millions per hour without a ring and about 16 millions per hour if I would get 1 crescent ring in the 4 hours grinded. It doesn't really sound too bad because these days you can easily get 1 ring in 4 hours if you have average luck, but back then that was actually out of the ordinary. And for the scrolls and trash items values, I would get about 3 scrolls on average and about 2.2 trash items per hour, which is in fact very bad, and this shows that without even having awakenings back then, grinding was much slower. So that being said, that's pretty much it for those 4 hours. We can now forget they even exist and fast forward 1.5 years later to pretty much 3 weeks ago when I did the first 4 hours test here. I would like to call this one the original 12 hours at Crescent Shrine test, because that's what it was supposed to be. I kind of had to end this one early because we got the double drop rates patch for Iona fragments and accessories, so as a result I only grinded here for 3 hours and 55 minutes in total, and you can see the screenshots and the time map on the screen to understand them easier if you are interested in that. Why is this test somewhat relevant? It's because this is the only one that I did without the Massive Blessing active. The other ones after it are done with the blessing active, so I kind of needed these 4 hours to understand what are the normal drop rates without using a Kamasive blessing. And the difference is actually quite noticeable. So before we talk about the conclusion from this test, I should mention the marketplace values, which as always I'm going to be using the Europe marketplace values, and if you play on a different server, please take the loot table, add your own values on it, do the math, it will take you maybe 3 minutes and you can get a more accurate value. Now for my prices, I decided to kind of make an average out of 2 different videos. I have one from 3 weeks ago and another one from yesterday with somewhat different prices, so I thought why not just simply approximate what I believe is the average value that these items sell for, so for example scrolls at 1.9 millions and so on. The values are on the screen if you want to check them out. If not, let's talk about the conclusion. From these 4 hours I got about 5000 trash items on average per hour and about 4.9 scrolls on average per hour. These 2 values do not include downtime, so it's just simply the grind time. I got 1 Iona fragment in 4 hours, which that time I guess it was average, it was before the double drop rates, so meh. The money per hour value was about 13 millions per hour if you include the downtime, which was in total 15 minutes, and about 14 millions per hour if you don't include downtime. Pretty much, I guess, decent. It's pretty bad, but then again I got no rings at all in these 4 hours. So if you are looking for a value that would kind of represent a bad luck scenario without the Kamasive blessing and with no ring drops, if you get maybe 4.5, let's say on average, scrolls dropped per hour, you can probably make between 13 and 14 millions per hour. That being said, from these 4 hours I don't really remember getting interrupted by other people. Maybe there was one person in 2 hours to kill a few groups here and there, but most of the time I was alone grinding the main rotation, which I did not show yet, it will be on the screen, pretty much making a big circle around a big rock. You can see it, it's the main rotation. So not really interrupted that much. This is going to be somewhat relevant in the next part. And talking about that, let's move on into the biggest chunk of my test, which was the 12 hours done after the double drop rates patch and with the Kamasive blessing active. This part with the 12 hours, I guess you could safely name the main test done at Crescents, because to be honest, at first it was the only one that I wanted to talk about, until I realized how much of a difference the Kamasive blessing did, and on top of that the double drop rates patch. So the screenshots should already be playing on the background, and also the time map, which if you take a look at, you will notice how, for example, on the first day, after only about 40 something minutes of grinding, I already got my first ring drop. And to add on top of that, after another 30 minutes of grinding, I got my second ring drop, which was in fact the Pry ring. So already within the first 1.5 hours or so, I already had 2 ring drops. Anyway, fast forwarding a little bit, the 20 something minutes sessions are pretty much how much I can grind until I'm overweight and I need to drop the items on the camel, or in this case the elephant. After about 4 hours I had to take my first trip to Bazaar to repair because my bow finally broke, and that was pretty much it for the first day. The second day was a little bit longer. On this one you can already see it on the screen from the time, the whatever it is. I got 2 Iona fragments, then the node war came at some point. After the node war I decided to grind some more. Again 20 something minute sessions, just dropping the items on my elephant over and over, doing the same main rotation. And after again about 4 hours of grinding, my bow was already starting to break, so I took my second trip to Bazaar. After returning and starting the grind again, I didn't even spend, let's say, 4 minutes and I got another ring drop, which was quite nice because I honestly, after grinding about 4 hours without getting one dropped, I was starting to believe that my luck in the beginning was just simply, you know, pure luck. Anyway, after I got this third ring, I proceeded to grind another about 1 hour, and then that was pretty much it for the second day. The third day was the last one out of these 12 hours. On this one, again, a lot of 20 something minute sessions, just grinding the main rotation. After which, when my bow was, let's say, almost breaking, I took the third trip to Bazaar and I decided that it should be around 12 hours in total by this time, so I ended the entire test. On the third day, I didn't really get lucky to get any Iona fragments or ring drops, but it didn't really matter because I had that prior ring drop, so I was already pretty proud of this test. In total, this session was 11 hours and 40 minutes of actual grind time, and if I add up all of the downtime from me repairing and travel time and whatever, it was 12 hours and 33 minutes. I must say that this chunk of 12 hours was definitely the most annoying one that I had to test in any area ever. If I mentioned earlier on the 4 hours one that I wasn't really interrupted that much, well, after the double drop rates patch, obviously a lot of people went to Valencia to grind, and so during these 12 hours I didn't have a single hour when I wasn't interrupted by people. Every single hour there would be people just coming on my spot, taking some groups here and there, some people even attempting to steal my rotation. My only luck was that I could complete the entire rotation on my ranger and only have maybe 2 or 3 groups respawn at the beginning. So even if people would want to steal the rotation, it would be pretty hard because I was doing the entire thing within the respawn time. Anyway, leaving that aside, how does this translate into money? Well, using the same marketplace values from these 12 hours, I got on average, again, these are without the downtime, on average about 4.3 scrolls per hour, which again pretty good. About 6.4 thousand trash items per hour, so quite a lot improved from the previous test. And the money value, including the rings, was about 32 millions per hour. I mean, between 32 and 35 if you want to use downtime or not. So quite a lot, and that prior ring pretty much brought up the value for the most part. We will talk at the end of the video about the values without the rings, but so far from this test, I kind of see now that I got 7 Iona fragments in 12 hours. Looks like I forgot to actually put them on the screenshots or whatever. Maybe I forgot to just keep track of them. I will add them while editing. But yeah, from these 12 hours, the drops actually did improve a lot, especially if you look at the trash items. Increasing from about 5,000 what it was before to 6.4 thousand, you can actually see the 20% drop rates from the Kamasilver blessing. So the trash items, yeah, a lot of them 6.4 thousand. Scrolls remained pretty much the same, actually it was a little bit worse, but from 12 hours the average usually goes down. And the money, I already said, 35 millions. It's quite a lot, but then again, in 12 hours, I would say you have a pretty decent chance of getting a prior ring. If not, you can at least expect to get 1 ring in 4 hours. In my case, even more. I believe that should be everything for this part. Also, very important, I forgot to mention, during these 12 hours we actually had the Blackstone drop rate event active. So now I remember this is exactly why I proceeded to test another 2 hours after it. So let's wrap up this part. Very annoying 12 hours, a lot of people griefing the spot. It was with a Blackstone drop rate event active, and now let's move on into the last part, which was 2 hours without the Blackstone drop rate event. For these last 2 hours I didn't really bother to go all the way back to High Dell, so for this test I started in Bazaar and the test pretty much ends back in Bazaar. So it is a little bit less downtime, but anyway. In total it was 2 hours and 10 minutes, out of which 9 minutes was only the grind time. The screenshot should be playing in the background, and again looking at the time, whatever it is, the explanation for the screenshots, I pretty much got lucky enough to get the first ring after only 8 minutes of grinding, and then about 1 hour later I got yet another ring drop, just as I said, pure drop, and a little bit later, 16 minutes or so, I got one Iona fragment. So already looking pretty good from just 2 hours of grinding, and to add on top of that, after opening the shattered rings, I mean the ring boxes, I got another crescent ring, making this test a total of 3 crescent rings in just 2 hours of grinding. I didn't mention this on the previous part, but you guys probably noticed it already from the screen. From those 12 hours I didn't get a single ring from opening the boxes. All I got was shattered rings, and I believe I had 17 in total, so getting one from just 2 hours now was actually quite nice. Anyway, how does this translate into money? Again, same marketplace values. I got about, let's say, between 64 and 69 millions per hour, just because I had 3 rings worth 42.5 millions from just these 2 hours. Anyway, without the 9 minutes of downtime, I would get on average about 4.4 scrolls per hour and about 6.1 trash items per hour, which you could say it's somewhat slower a little bit than the previous test with 12 hours, but still pretty nice, 6.1 trash items. If you make exactly 20% out of 5,000, it's 6,000, so I would say definitely the Kamasive blessing gives you probably exactly 20% more trash items if you have it active, so there's that. Anyway, as satisfying as this looks, 70 millions per hour is not exactly something everyone can get, so let's talk about the values without the crescent rings. From the 4 hours, the first test without the Kamasive blessing, I would get between 13 and 14 millions per hour, so I mean it's pretty much the same values because I didn't get a ring at that time. From the second test, the 12 hours, taking out all of the rings, I would get between 17 and 19 millions per hour, again with or without downtime. So pretty good, but then again that one includes the Blackstone drop rate event, so I had a lot of Blackstones, and this one has a Kamasive blessing, so more trash items. And for the case where you don't have the Blackstone drop rate event but you still have the Kamasive blessing on, you would make between 15 and 16 millions per hour taken from these 2 hours test. So these are the values without rings included. Pretty much, in my opinion, the most important ones are the 4 hours, 13 to 14 millions per hour without a blessing on, and between 15 and 16 millions per hour from the last test with the Kamasive blessing on. So there's the difference you would get. On those values you can add as many rings as you would like, or even take the loot table as I said and shift the values however you want. So that's pretty much it. I guess now we can talk about the conclusion and get this video to an end, because it's already pretty long and I don't want to make it longer than it has to be. My final thoughts on this subject are that pretty much the money income increased a lot on the last few months, I suppose. From all the way 1 year ago when you would make 2.2 trash items on average per hour, to today when you can make between 5,000 without a blessing and 6,500 with a blessing, it's quite a lot improved, especially with the double drop rates for accessories and Iona fragments. As you can see, if you get lucky enough, especially here on Crescent Shrine, you can make 70 millions per hour. This place is very good because compared to other places like Nagas or Fogans, the Crescent Ring actually did maintain its high price of 40 plus millions. So getting one of those actually feels very good, compared to something like Fogans where the accessory is maybe 15 millions. So that's very nice. Also, on all of the money values shown, I did not include the Iona fragments because I have no idea how to use them efficiently or how much each of them is actually worth. So on top of these values, add the Iona fragments if you wish. You can probably make about 2 Iona fragments per hour on average. My bad. You can probably make about 1 Iona fragment per 2 hours. So the other way around. So there's that, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you found some information out of it. If you didn't, then I have no idea what pleases you. If you enjoy it, maybe consider leaving a like. If you didn't enjoy it, leave a dislike. Any type of feedback is welcomed and it definitely helps out. If you want to share your thoughts or open a conversation, talk to me, leave a comment and I will make sure to answer it. If I don't answer it, at least I will be reading it. So there's that. And I'll see you guys next time with some different video. I will probably test Crescents at some point because now that we have enhanced accessory drops, I just remembered another reason why I did the last 2 hours test was because I wasn't sure if the enhanced accessory drops would change the 12 hours test or not. But it turns out that at Crescent Shrine you can't get any accessory drops, armor drops, so the enhanced armor drops patch didn't really change anything. But I think I will test Crescents whenever I make time or whenever I play Black Desert again, because that place drops a lot of armor pieces, and with the enhanced drops patch, it might actually be very profitable. So again, long video, I apologize for that. Thanks for watching again, and bye bye.